Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. Your host here, Matt Seha. We are buzzing as always. For the folks who are watching and not listening, my goodness, I got to figure out the lighting in my office. Whenever I open up my lovely floor-to-ceiling windows, I look whiter than Casper. Another pod where I'm looking whiter than Casper that goes. So I got to fix that, and I'll get some lighting in for the next one. Super pumped for today's episode. This one is going to be a little different than the last probably month or two that we've had. We are going to get super into intent and how our guest today, Adrian and Anoma, are literally building sort of the infra layer for all of Web3. The multi-chain world is a thing, and can't wait to get into all this fun stuff as well as privacy too. Today we have Adrian Brink on the show today, co-founder of Anoma and Namada. Previously he worked at Tendermint, which is part of Cosmos, as the third core developer and head of partnerships, and he also worked at the Web3 Foundation as a technologist. Before Anoma and Namada, Adrian also co-founded proof-of-stake validator Cryptium Labs and Metastate, an R&D team focused on protocol development, architecture, ZK cryptography, and programming languages. Wow, rough start for the host. Let's hope our guest comes in hot. Adrian, welcome to the show, my friend. Pumped to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we went live, you and I mean, the usual shooting of the shit. You asked where I am. I told you I'm in Toronto. I asked where you were. You said you're in Switzerland, and you had a great little precursor story about that. Let's just play that back 2 minutes and start. Why are you in Switzerland right now? And let's get into some nuclear war stuff, just to come in hot right off the bat.
Yeah, just an easy topic off the start. No, so in 2017, so I joined crypto. I wrote my grad thesis in like 2016 on censorship resistant e-voting on Ethereum, and then joined Cosmos, the third core dev, as you just mentioned. And so like in 2017, we started to be really worried about, so if the US dollar had maybe 6 months left to live, and like what happens in the global reserve currency going away, shit's going to get messy, right? And so I was like, okay, where do I move? I didn't want to leave Europe, so I was like, what's the safest place in Europe? And then I ended up moving to Switzerland like 2018. Because Switzerland, the fun fact, until the 70s, I believe, every new house had to have a nuclear bunker in the basement. And like, they're not like
What?
tiny bunkers, they're like fully self-sufficient bunkers that can run for 2 or 3 weeks. And I'll get more to this in a sec.
I did not know
so
that.
It's nuts. Yeah. So the Swiss were nuts. They were really worried during Cold War that Russia was going to nuke Switzerland. I don't know why. Just happened to be the case. But they also did stuff like, until the late 70s, I think they kept all the bridges mined. It's like the entire defensive strategy of Switzerland was like, if you try to invade Switzerland, we'll detonate all the infrastructure, like the Gotthard Tunnel and all the bridges leading into the country. Anyway, so as a result, we have clear bunkers for about 114% of the population, which is cool.
Wow.
No, so that's how I ended up in Switzerland. Actually, I like it here. The paranoia fits well with my mentality of like being self-sufficient. But so like the US is very well known for its prepper community, right? And I think the preppers in the US actually get it wrong in the sense that like they are trying to focus on that stockpile as much ammunition to live off the grid by ourselves. But really, this is not what you want. Like you want to be in a local community that you actually trust, because it's very hard to do all the childcare, all the doctoring, all the nursing, all the farming yourself. So you probably actually want to be somewhere in like the 5 to 20,000 people range. That is like a tightly knit social group, because that's way more likely to survive the apocalypse than like the 3 random hillbillies up in the mountains. Like it just like it won't work. Like I mean, it looks very cool, but it's very impractical, right? So Switzerland is a good place because it's a local community. It's very tight knit. I can recommend to everyone. But so you're also saying in the beginning, the best place outside of Switzerland is probably like the southern tip of Argentina, for example.
Yeah.
And this is actually an interesting notion. So like for anyone listening, if you're worried about World War III, there's a great warning signal, because civilian nuclear bunkers in like everyone's basement, not in use at the moment. So you can use them as your wine cellar, sauna, or whatever. The only rule is you must be able to convert it into an actual working bunker in 5 days, with 5 days warning. And so when the Swiss government gives up the warning, like get rid of your saunas and the wine cellars and actually start prepping the bunkers, that's probably the cue to like start booking the flights to Argentina.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so this is like, there's a great sort of warning signal if you trust Swiss competency, that you got like, when these people start activating the bunkers, shit's about to get real.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, again, I'm not some super paranoid lad, by any means, but I have looked at those. I'm sure you've seen those bubble maps where it's like, okay, if Russia or North Korea or whoever launches nukes, where can they hit? Now, the one thing that doesn't really go into account is the nuclear subs, right? Like if a sub were to roll up just outside of New York City, I'm in Toronto, that's like an hour, like we're all screwed, right? Like the best place in North America is probably Northern Canada in the territories, Northwest Territories in the middle of butt F nowhere, But
Yeah.
anyway, I mean, we're all screwed at that end. That'll just be call my mom, call my dad, call my brother, call my boys, hug my girlfriend, kiss her one last time, and that's it, And we had a good life. What could we do? It's out of our control.
Fun.
Yeah, exactly.
We did a button between friends in the middle.
Yeah.
What more can we do?
Yeah, we did. We could. Okay, what a great start to the show. I think we just jump right into it here, Adrian, because I think I've listened to your stuff. I've read your stuff. I follow you on Twitter, on X. You are a very good ranter, and you have some hot takes, which I love, and that is why we have you on the pod. So let's jump right into it. Before we get into Anoma and Intents, walk me through sort of the current present-day state and landscape of Web3 and crypto and why you guys are building what you're building, because let's start with the problem and then we'll move over to the solution.
Yeah. So the current state of Web3, we're currently in this weird in-between phase. To me, we're currently we're in stage 2 sort of global crypto development. And we're teetering on the stage to move onwards to stage 3. And Anoma is, I think, sort of like this third evolution of blockchains. Because when you actually look at the history, we had Bitcoin and Bitcoin-like systems, like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Namecoin, and they looked like this Bitcoin-like thing. You just had this UTXO model, but they weren't really designed for programmability. They were just like, let's do some payments. And honestly, these systems had deficiencies, which caused us to get something like Ethereum.
Yeah.
And essentially with Ethereum in 2015, we got this programmable transaction. However, all systems currently, it's essentially Ethereum. You may like Solana, you may like Nia, but fundamentally it's the same thing as Ethereum in a slightly different color, right? Dial up the number of transactions per second, lower the nodes.
Yep.
And this is essentially it. It's different VM. Great. Fundamentally, I can do exactly the same thing between Solana and Ethereum.
It's programmable money.
Yes.
This
is honestly since Ethereum, really innovation has slowed to a grinding halt. We've gotten some edge case optimizations in cryptography, some cool improvements in networking and cool improvements in consensus, but we haven't seen sort of the fundamental architecture shift that we actually need. Because when you look at the applications on Ethereum, it's all about sort of P2P stuff. I want to trade some asset or some other asset, but I don't know with who. I want to open a loan position, and maybe there's sort of 500 different counterparties that sort of back this loan position. And in Bitcoin, this always worked because the notion was I have some Bitcoin and I go into a store and I give you some Bitcoins, you give me some milk. Done. We have the counterparty discovery problem solved. And then we just took okay, we'll just make exactly the same model but programmable. And now we all do this dumb shit where our counterparties are these AMMs for some reason, because AMMs are the smartest way to solve this problem of how do you the smartest dumb way to solve the problem of how do you get decentralized counterparty to work in practice. But this is where intents actually really start to shine. Where it's I have a partial state transition. I have A for B. I don't know whether there's one guy that wants to do B for A, or there's 500 guys that want to do B for A. I just know I have my partial thing, and then I will just say, go find me someone that this can sort of be settled against. And so
with
the second
privacy.
With privacy, and this is sort of the other huge aspect, which is Anoma is not private in the base layer. And in the sense, Anoma is not like Zcash. Anoma is like Ethereum, but it has the right primitives at the base layer. So it makes building actually privacy preserving applications really, really easy. And I think this is the big difference, right? Anoma is not a privacy layer. It has the right primitive at its core in order to make this work in practice. And this is actually also where intents come in, because generally with ZKPs or zero knowledge proofs, data moves to the edge of a network, right? Rather than in Ethereum, all the data lives in this big bubble in the middle. But as soon as you have ZKPs, you want to have data on the edges, on the edge devices. And so now how do you reason about this data on the edge devices? How do you make proofs over this data? Well, this gets really messy if you don't have generalized intents. And so this is also where generalized intents really shine, because generalized intents also just generalize the problem of rollups.
Yep.
What's a rollup? It's I don't know, 15 intents that you collapse into one state transition function. Yep. And so Anoma solves this. And everyone so far has, I like to think of this as a sucking chest food. The current sort of ecosystem, the current Web3 ecosystem, is a sucking chest wound. And we're sitting there with like sunflower stickers trying to like, no, it'd be fine. Like, let's put another sticker on top. It'd be okay. But I think it now has come the time that like, it's kind of hard to ignore the sucking chest wound, both in terms of scalability, in terms of sort of interoperability between all these different rollups. And this is where Anoma shines. Like, it's intense, it's generalized distributed operating systems where you can have one, like, actually, I'll leave you with the last thing. Like, one of the really weird things in the current space is that there's 15 different versions of Aave.
Yes.
And most people don't think about this, but like Aave on like Arbitrum and Aave on Ethereum have functionally nothing to do with each other. Like zero.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same brand.
It's just
same functionality.
It's a way to get.
There's nothing.
Takes yield and liquidity.
But
on,
for example,
chain 1, chain 2, chain 3, chain 4.
You can't take your positions from one chain to the other. Like they're functionally fully independent. Because like there's no operating system to just but you have to unwind your position first.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's like there's no like complex state interoperability like to actually make this feel like one application.
Yeah.
And so with Anoma, the distributed operating system, you just like get this one application environment that yes, the user may choose to put parts of their state onto Arbitrum, parts onto Celestia, parts onto Ethereum main chain, parts eventually onto Bitcoin or Solana. But like you build one application because now you have the substrate to say, I have one distributed application that I'm building against the distributed operating system that runs wherever I need it to run. And that's essentially the whole spiel with Anoma. It's going to be very cool, right? Like where it's like currently we're moving from this very siloed world, like pre-Windows, and with Anoma we're moving into like now Windows is a thing, and we can start building actual very cool applications that can use various components that we've built over the years that really ties this all well together.
Yeah. I love a lot of what you said there. I give a lot of analogies to my non-crypto friends, Adrian, and one of the analogies that I give in regards to sort of what you guys are building, or just the lack of apps and too complex infra and chain analogy, is I say, imagine you needed a different computer for every little thing you did. Like, imagine you need, like, I'm on my MacBook Pro right now. Imagine if I want to use the internet, I need my MacBook Pro. But if I want to go on my Canadian banking app, I have to open up a MacBook Air. And if I want to go on whatever, if I want to watch YouTube, I need to open up a Chromebook. Like, that makes zero sense, but that's how crypto land works right now. And it's got to change.
And I think we've gotten very used to this, like,
clunky
this model.
Yep.
But if you explain this to like someone that hasn't been around for 3 years, they go like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
This seems worse. And honestly, it's kind of true at the moment.
Yeah.
You're running around with these 15 different laptops. That's a very good analogy, actually, laptops. I usually use the CPU analogy. You know, like in the past, developers have to, like in the past, you build the application against a specific CPU and like it wouldn't run on a different CPU. And then Windows came along and like, oh, all of a sudden I can just build applications against Windows. And Windows handles the complexity of all these different underlying execution environments. Yeah. That's kind of like what Anoma does.
Well said. Okay, let's, just because this is the first, again, 460 plus episodes, first episode where we've really got into intents as sort of a narra, you know, on that narrative. Let's just go right into it. What are intents? How does that relate to what you guys are doing, and how does it differ from like the current crypto landscape that we have at the moment?
Intents aren't limit orders. I'll start with that, because everyone and their grandmother goes, oh, intents are just limit orders, right? It's like, no. Yeah. Limit orders are just like a very, very tiny subset of what an intent can represent. But I get why everyone is saying this, because like, honestly, no one wants to do any innovative thing. And so they're like, we have intents, don't you worry about it. It's like, no, we don't. You have like this tiny, tiny subset, like you have like 1% of what the thing actually is supposed to do, and you're calling it as an intent. I mean, it's very facetious, I think, and misleading. So intents overall are partial state transitions. So think of them as like, I have some state A, and like this state could be like, I own some ETH. And then I can say in my intent, I'm willing to own a little bit less ETH if I own a CryptoPunk in exchange. And I don't care like which contract called under the hood, or whether like my ETH gets swapped to USDC, or then to Bitcoin, then to Sol, and then into CryptoPunk. Actually, and it doesn't even matter which chain I'm necessarily on. Like, you can even say like, I have some ETH on mainnet, and I'd like to hold some like CryptoPunk on Solana, and that's sort of the entire state that you described. And this partial state you sign over, and then solvers come and go, there's a super intents. Let me see which ones combine. And I mean, if you have simple intents, like I want some BTC for ETH,
It's gonna
let
happen.
me find you some ETH for
yeah.
BTC, trivial. Wintermute is going to dominate this market.
Yeah.
If you have more complex intents, like I would like to own this CryptoPunk on Solana, that may actually require some manual work, and like their different solvers will start competing quite heavily with each other.
Yeah.
But this is essentially what intents allow you to do. It allows you to sort of express an arbitrary condition that you would like to achieve. Like I currently am sort of at point A and I'd like to be at point B. And honestly, this transition, like where you want to get to, this is completely up to you. There's no restrictions with Anoma. Like Anoma doesn't know what a price is. It doesn't know what an asset is. It just knows there's some keys in a Merkle tree, and now you're willing to hold some other keys in a Merkle tree. And then you just describe this, and then solvers go out there and go, okay, how do I make this work in practice? And then only if they actually find something that matches your intent, does this get settled on chain. So this also allows you to do things like you can quote new price points every half a second, as fast as the server is willing to handle, because intents aren't settled on chain directly. Only sort of solved intents go directly on chain. So you can just keep quoting intents at the speed of light. And you don't have to worry like, oh, I have to pay a gas cost for every single intent that I'm issuing.
So only if the intent is executed, then it moves on chain.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
And then it may move like on multiple chains at the same time, right? Like Anoma solves this problem of we have all these like 500 different L1s, L2s, they're all functionally the same, like execution environments, chains really. And so like as a user, it's very hard for me. Like I have to go, oh, fuck, I have to switch my wallet now to this different chain ID. What the fuck am I doing here? And like with Anoma, you just say,
get this
I'd
done.
like to, I hold some asset on ETH and I'd like to hold some other asset or some CryptoPunk on Sol or Solana, just get it done for me. And so it abstracts a lot of this complexity away, which like honestly a normal user is never going to understand this in practice. Yeah, that's what intents are. And this is, I think, sort of where people are missing a lot of the true innovation. Like if you just think of an intent as a limit order, yeah, that's incredibly boring. Because honestly, to me, trading use cases, I mean, crypto is doing lots of them, but I find the general coordination problem much more interesting. And so this is what intents really allow you to do. And maybe actually I can do a quick segue here, because for like what actually crypto is supposed to be, like we view crypto, I think, as a lot of sort of financial infrastructure. And like it's turning out to be this way at the moment. But I think actually long-term, crypto is going to be much more than this. It's going to be coordination infrastructure. It's going to be like, how do 20,000 people in a city coordinate their economic activity to achieve shared goals? Like rather than having to say, like, oh, we do this like abstract process of voting for a bunch of politicians and then pass like some environmental regulation because we like to have nice green fields. We can also just start encoding in our daily interactions and our intents, like, oh, I'd like to only purchase locally sourced coffee, whatever, under these conditions. And then you can start percolating a lot of this information into daily life. And then you can start actually seeing like, what's the demand for? And like where, like, how does this coordination happen? So I think actually Anoma goes much more beyond just financial coordination and crypto as a whole. It's like, this is like, it's the coordination substrate of the future and also of World War III. Because like, one interesting thing, right? Like when you think like Bitcoin will just fall, like Ethereum will just, on the eve of World War III, all these chains will halt because like most fiber cables, undersea fiber cables get cut by essentially naval warfare. And then like most satellite capacity is going to be redirected to military communications. It seems pretty straightforward, like, actually, when you think about this from first principles. So it seems unlikely that the US government goes, actually, no, we'll reserve a bunch of bandwidth for like Bitcoin block propagation.
Everything's like, done. You're
out of your mind at that point.
Strictly military. Everything else, thanks for
right. And so, but the cool thing is you can run Anoma over your local mesh network, like over local LAN, because like Anoma doesn't make this assumption that there must be some global consensus. Anoma is very fractal in nature. So like Anoma can be, so like you can run this, like if you want to do trading, you run between you and your two friends. If you do like want to do citywide coffee payment settlement, you just run for the city. If you want to do large block trades between countries, then you run between countries.
Yeah.
But like, it's very adaptable. Like it's not a fixed topology, whereas like Bitcoin and Ethereum are always fixed topology.
But we still,
Anoma is very topology agnostic.
We do, and now I love that you brought that up with the local land, but we'll still need electricity, right? And if World War III happens, I think all bets are off. I mean, no electricity.
No, actually, so this is the weird thing, actually. I think people, like humans are, like if you look at Europe has survived like 500 years of war. And it's like, it's not going to go all out nuclear. It just like we're most likely going to fracture a lot more. Like we're not going to like when I tap my Visa card, it's not going to work that like my thing gets verified by a server in Virginia and then like the response comes back. That seems unlikely, but like local economies just won't collapse overnight. So like your local power station will still continue to function.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if you look at like the Middle East or North Africa, I mean, like the countries have gone into horrendous like societal collapse, but like Lebanon still has like power. I mean, not super reliably,
Yeah.
but it still like has sort of baseline infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so like,
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, I'm much more optimistic about this, but like the large scale sort of like, oh, everything goes via the global AWS data center. I think that's less likely to work in practice.
Kaput. Yeah.
No, I mean,
Well
this
said.
is like, and people kind of don't fully grasp this, but like Anoma is as decentralized as Bitcoin and as like fast as Solana. Because if you just want to do local settlement, like the three of us in a room, we can do super fast direct fiber optic peering and like speed of light settlement. If you want to be super decentralized, you can configure Anoma to be super decentralized and run on everyone's phone and consensus. I mean, it's going to slow down, of course.
Yeah.
But like you as a user can have much more control over the topology that you actually want. And so rather than us as like protocol engineers sitting there and going like, no, this is the topology for the economic system we're designing. It's more like we build topology agnostic system and then sort of actually local economic forces shape the specific topology that emerges.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's sort of TLDR.
Adrian, you're on a roll here. Got to take a quick break. Give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. When we get back, we are going to keep buzzing on Anoma and everything related. Huge shout out to PrimXBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at PrimXBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. PrimXBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News pod. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Adrian. Okay, one thing I'd love to get into, and this is a question for the listeners here, because I do get asked this all the time. I give my version of this, but I want to hear your version of this. We have so much infra in crypto, but we do not have any apps. And it is a huge, huge problem. I think of when I'm a 95, I'm 30 years old. I think of grade 7. For me, it was grade 7. I was 12 years old, 11, 12. The iPod Touch came out. And that was sort of the first hoorah of apps. The iPod Touch was pretty friggin' elite, but the apps were what made the iPod Touch. Without the apps, who gives a shit about the iPod Touch? It's all about the apps. We still have no good apps. Just like to fortify your point, Adrian, from 10 minutes ago, all we have right now is trading or degen financial apps. We have nothing that's outside of how can I make money quick. That is it. We need to get the masses on board. The infra is really good and it continues to get better. Why do we not have any good apps right now outside of trading? And how do we fix this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think we should all be very worried about it in Web3. So my take is, let's start with the infrastructure that we currently have. The problem is that it's exactly like we have lots of infrastructure and it does exactly the same thing. I mean, like, I don't know, everyone is building these chains and they all do functionally the same thing. So like, it's not a really big surprise that we're going to like see the same 3 apps, because honestly, the same chains all look exactly the same. And so like, if they don't enable anything sort of novel or new. And so like, from that perspective, like Anoma is not just like yet another L1, because honestly, this doesn't work. Anoma is this like abstraction, this operating system for Web3, or like it's what the world, what Ethereum was supposed to be. Like Anoma is sort of the world computer that Ethereum tried to be. Like Ethereum's tagline was always Ethereum, the world computer, but it's not. There's just like now all these like 30 different L2s, and now we just have 30 different chains that all kind of use the same technology, but fundamentally are disconnected from each other, except some incredibly clunky bridges. And like in 3 years, we've made very little progress on fixing this. So Anoma is really like, how do we have this abstraction that allows you to do something different, where instead of building like an application that works against just Ethereum or just Solana, how do I build an application that leverages all these pieces? And like I like some VA on Celestia. I'd like to like do my high frequency trading part of my application on Solana. my long-term sort of asset storage, I'd like to transfer a main chain. But like, there's no good way to do this at the moment. So like, everyone just goes, okay, let me just copy. Like, there's a new L1, great, or new L2, great. Let me just copy my like 15 lines of solidity, and now we have Aave on the X chain again. So this is really what this comes down to. Like, I think this is why we have a lot of infrastructure, and there's all the same thing. And marketing is convinced that this infrastructure was sort of useful. And to me, like, we've stopped building useful infrastructure like 4 years ago. And Anoma was really like the first attempt that like we like break this cycle of like, oh, let's just ship yet another L1. Like, we want to be building in the model in like of building apps, not chains, right?
Yeah.
It's about Anoma being the Web3 application layer,
App Store.
where like the chain goes into the background.
Yeah.
It's like now you have the operating system, and sure, a user may go onto Solana, a user may go onto Ethereum, but you as an application developer do not have to make this choice. Because I think people really underestimate how stupid you sound when you talk to like a Web2 dev at Amazon and go like, okay, cool, you're going to build an app. Okay, the first choice you have to make is, do you use GCP or AWS? They go like, what the fuck? I mean, who cares? Like, why would I care about this like weird technical choice? And you're like, no. Everything you do from here on out is riding on this one choice.
Yeah.
You better be betting right? And with Anoma, it's not this. It's like you build against the operating system, and if then in 2 years a new chain comes along, the operating system that's ported to the new execution environment once, and then all applications just start working against this. You as a developer, you aren't locking yourself into like, oh, I only work on this specific L1. And like, also, this actually becomes a really big point, which is currently like you pick your community, like you either go to Solana or to Ethereum. But why do I care? I want to build a good lending market, for example. I just want to say I do lending, and then a user can come to me and go like, oh, I care about I care about my assets being on Solana, or I like Sol assets, right? And like another user goes, oh, I like Arbitrum assets. And this is what Anoma enables. Like, you build one application, and then it becomes user choice on whether they run on Solana or they run on Arbitrum. It's like, it's not a developer choice.
Yeah.
And so I think this is why we ended up having, honestly, the same not even 15, the same 5 apps.
Yeah.
Across all the ecosystem. And this is why it kind of actually honestly feels stale at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe now touching on the point of like, what would it take to get better, like more kinds of applications? I think one huge aspect is scalability and scalability of security models. It's like lots of applications actually are kind of localized. And like, you can think of sort of my parents, for example. I'll give you this sort of very specific example. My parents will never trust Ethereum because decentralization is not a selling point to that.
Likewise.
And it will never be. Like, they live in Germany, they trust their local court system. They want a system that is secured by the local infrastructure that they have, by their local community. For someone in Argentina, this may be different. They may not trust the local government at all. But we are essentially trying to force everyone to go, oh no, just trust this global system. Like, just go to Ethereum and like, it's the most secure. But security is a huge, like, it's a very subjective thing. It's not it's not an objective thing. Like, Ethereum is the most secure. That's just blatantly false. And like, my parents will not enjoy this security model. And so with Anoma, you can actually build applications that are tailored to different people's needs. Like, if Volkswagen wants to build an application, they can decide to run this in their own local security zone or in the German security zone, but you still get this complex state interoperability with the rest of the environment. So that because until now it was always like, oh, Volkswagen just does this, and then they like live on this silent enterprise blockchain that can't interact with anyone else. Yeah, that sucks too. That's also a shitty business proposition. Why would you want to like do that? But now you can start saying, oh, our core processes live on our own little island. But every time like we sell a car, we like export this as an NFT to wherever the user wants to hold it. And then maybe my parents hold it on like the local government chain, maybe an Argentinian holds it on the global Ethereum chain. But now you start making this a lot more flexible and a lot more appealing to different users to actually start interacting with these systems.
And it has to, I agree, and it can't be, this is crypto, this is blockchain. It just has to be like this is an app that works and that is clean and has good UI, good UX. We can't be pitching the like, oh, it's crypto XYZ or it's blockchain XYZ. They don't give a shit at all. They just want something that works. As long as you're providing a better solution to the current solution, that's all people care about. Is it going to make them a little happier, healthier, wealthier in an easier fashion? If it is, boom, they're going to use it. And that's what we got to do. Right now, it's still, roll up XYZ, bubble. Like, it's just, there's too much nonsense right now. It's got to
No one
change.
uses these systems for
I
that
know.
for that reason. I mean, like,
Yeah.
who's excited about using Arbitrum or Sui? I mean, like, I'm sorry, like, that's like, it does exactly the same thing as all these other systems. Like, what's the driving factor that like causes me to like go there, right? No, so I think this is one huge aspect is like you need this multi-domain system where like you can build applications that can function in many different domains. And I think the second aspect is actually like you need very good user configurable privacy guarantees. And again, this doesn't actually mean that you need to have applications that are fully private. Like my parents would be very happy with an application that like the local government has some amount of like quad mediated read access into. That's fine. But like we need to allow application developers to like get this level of flexibility because what my parents are definitely not going to be okay with is like if their neighbors see that they've just gone to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
All these types of things, like they just like honestly like stop real world adoption because in the real world, outside of meme coins, like you actually may care if everyone keeps saying that you go to the shop to buy cigarettes at like 5 p.m. on a Tuesday. And this is like the time to rob your house. Like this is it's honestly a bad system when you actually think about this. And so I think this is why we are still lacking a lot of applications. But I'm very excited actually like with Anoma that like we can start changing this model rather drastically. Like with Anoma, you can start building things like the Anoma Super App, which is just like this one app that you can do everything with. Like, oh, you want to do like some meme coin trading on Solana? Sure, this is a good interface for this. You want to like in my dream, eventually we can like move all the DMVs on chain.
Oh.
Where it's like every DMV just like run and like my pitch is not that like everyone has to trust global Ethereum because that will never happen, but every DMV can just run their own local database and we just make parts of it read and write accessible so that like I can like have this one super app that I can use to like update the DMV database and they can like authenticate my signatures. Yeah. These kinds of things. This is what I'm super excited about.
Elections, like we had an election in Canada a couple months ago. Like people, pens and papers with a 45-minute line to vote in an election in which the party I voted for, I knew I was like, we weren't going to win. I just did it because I have to do my part in society, like, what are we doing? That was one of those, like, how archaic is this right now? Canada has fallen quite significantly, but it's still one of the best countries in the world. And I don't even think that's up for debate. I think most people would still agree that it is. But like, what are we doing, guys? Like, this is insane. We go on.
I can give you a huge counter pitch to this, though, which is I don't think elections should be electronic. I think it's a huge structural weakness.
Do you think it's still pen and paper?
No, actually, I think pen and paper is also worse. So I've seen a good model in Switzerland, which is a historic model. Everyone meets up once a year in the local town square and they vote by hand signal.
Come on.
And like there's no, I'm not kidding. You can look this up. There's still two states in Switzerland. They're called cantons, Appenzell Innerrhoden and Glarus, that do Landsgemeinde, which is essentially public voting. And like once a year, they just all get together onto their local town square, and then they debate the tax rate for next year. They elect the government for next year. And the wildest thing is they don't count. There's a guy on top of a tower in the middle that goes, the ayes have it, the nays have it. And if he isn't certain, they just call 4 more people, and then there's 5 people like guesstimating how many yays, how many nays. But so this huge benefit is it's very hard to corrupt because like you will detect if there's like 2,000 people you've never seen before in your life. You're like, what the fuck are these people doing here?
This looks bigger than normal.
This is like, I've never been to school with these kids. Who are they? Very obvious, right? So like voter fraud is like very obvious to detect. And the other big advantage is people are actually close to the democracy.
Yeah.
I.e. like, I don't know how it is for you in Canada, but like I'm from Germany and like, you vote every 4 years, you have zero interaction, like zero sort of like actual like, emotional
100%.
connection to that process.
None.
But like there, you have emotional connection because like it's there and like you can talk about it. Like everyone can just go up to the podium and speak their mind about like what they think about this
policy.
Bit
of skin in the game, yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah,
that's super interesting.
So I think so. The big problem becomes actually how do you do this at scale? And this is actually like sort of with this like local community thing with Anoma, this topology agnostic thing with Anoma comes in, where it's like maybe you want to do them digitally, but for much smaller communities. So like imagine like
Yeah.
individual villages do their own votes. And this is actually a kind of coordination infrastructure that Anoma very fundamentally enables, which I'm actually very excited about because it's a non-financial use case for the
Yeah.
technology we're building. But I think it's still a couple of years out. I think we first have to nail the financial use case because it's like the easiest.
100%. Awesome. Adrian, what an episode. This was a blast. A lot of fun. Hopefully Mark Carney, our new prime minister in Canada, has listened. Not a chance, because he hates crypto. He literally worked at, well, we won't even get into it. But if you're listening, Mark Carney, give Adrian a call. This would be great. We have a lot of undocumented people who've come to Canada, done some voting as well. And there's only 40 million people here. It'd be pretty darn easy to potentially get our voting on chain and our DMV on chain. So call Adrian. I'll leave his email in the show notes and we'll go from there. But all jokes aside, last thing, walk me through mainnet rollout. What does that look like? And then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so Anoma's coming to mainnet very soon. So if you're a developer and you want to stay like ahead of the hype cycle, and like honestly future-proof the applications, now is this time to start building and to start not just deploying like the same carbon copy of Aave to yet another chain, but rather build future-proof applications. Like you can build one app once, and then you can launch it everywhere as soon as Anoma is deployable as the operating system to that system. So you get like a bunch of rapid deployment guarantees, you get much faster go-to-market. So yeah, come check it out. Also as users, if you actually want to play with cool new stuff, stay tuned. There's a ton of things coming to Anoma. And yeah, it's like, to me, this is super exciting because for the first time in like 5 years, we like can enable something fundamentally new. And I think that we're going to see a bunch of experiments. Some will fail, some will wildly succeed.
Yep.
But I really believe that like this is sort of the next wave to some extent, where it's like, at the moment it feels very much we're in a rut and we're going, I guess stable coins is the new hot thing now for the next 3 weeks that we all should be excited about. I mean, stable coins are exciting, but like very much back feels like we're lacking this like fundamental driver of like enabling new things. And this is really what Anoma is. Yeah. So stay ahead of the game. Check out Anoma. It's going to be very cool. And it's coming to everywhere near you.
Love it. Folks, what an episode with Adrian Brink, co-founder of Anoma and Namada. Geez, he was on fire today. Intense crypto infrastructure, the lack of crypto apps, a little bit of everything, and we even got into surviving World War III, which hopefully we will never have to do in real life. But if it happens and you listen to this episode, you'll be better prepped than the rest of the folks. Huge shout out to Adrian and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking of the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And back to the listeners, keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys. See ya.